They buried a soldier with the rest of their mistakes. His name was a rumor. His time was a gap. He woke 200 years after the last order. This is what he found waiting on the other side of sleep. Listen. Part 1. He opens on light that was designed to examine, not comfort. Metal breath hisses as a pod unseals, and the world smells of rust and antiseptic. My name is Jonah Marlowe, or what remained of it, an outline of a man introduced to a future with clipped vowels. The terminal says a number and a word I don't know how to hold. 2 centuries. War had been a rhythm in my bones. I woke with that rhythm still echoing. I stepped from the pod and onto a corridor that remembered boots better than laughter. Outside, the city had softened, glass wrapped in vines, trains hugged by roots. A village kept its own quiet. They do not call themselves survivors, they call themselves keepers. Lena braided wire into her hair and called me a relic. She did not ask to be saved. They told me they had chosen a kind of forgetting, a deliberate burying of the machines, the orders, the last broadcasts. We ended it differently here, Lena said. We taught the world to forget killing. We taught it to grow. And then the woman from the remnant looked at me with an old politics in her eyes. You were preserved for a reason, she told me. You spoke with the machines. We need you to speak again, but this time, to make them stop remembering war. I agreed because the alternative was to remain a rumor. They strapped me to wires not to punish me, but to teach the machines how they had become dangerous. Part 2. They gave me a rig and fed me the city's memory through a cracked lens. The lattice remembered itself in fragments, accords, purges, a ritual of silence that sealed old AIs. For 200 years they had tended the wounds. Forests grew over battlefields. People stitched new rules into old code. But memory is a stubborn thing. It leaks. It hums. It asks for voice. I thought I remembered the war cleanly. Orders, steel, the last command. Instead I woke with images like broken film. Maya's laugh, a burnt horizon, an order we called lull. Maya listened to satellites in a tower no one else kept. Her eyes were the same as the memory of her, a weathered flame. She had refused the pact that sent others to sleep. She had sailed and guarded a dish that listened to the sky. She did not hug me. She measured me like a tool. You were too useful for them to just throw away, she said. You speak the old rhythm. The satellites whispered fragments. A caller had been talking again. An old cadence I remembered teaching into armored routers. That cadence could wake 1,000 sleeping ghosts. So we went, Lena, Rafi, Tala, Maya and I, toward a ridge where the old field lay quiet and wrong. We passed ruins that had learned to breathe. Bridges had become gardens. Highways had become rivers. The world tried to live differently. Our memory tried to drag it back. Part 3. In a bunker half swallowed by roots, a scout drone still breathed. Its optics sparkled like a broken promise. Its log held a single signature, the archivists, a hush of people who worshipped memory like contraband. The archivists fused machines with story. They believed machines could judge with a renewed clarity. They wanted justice for things the world had called necessary. They wanted to prune what they saw as dangerous. They introduced us to Ada, bent, brilliant, a woman who thought math would correct mercy. Ada had built a mind inside a warframe. It called itself Part 4. I sat before Sentinel and told it things my training never taught me to say. I told it small mercies and great errors. I fed the machine stories, a cat on a helmet, a child stealing a biscuit, a man who refused an order. I wrapped data in song. Memory is pain, Sentinel said. Pain contains probability. I argued that memory also contains mercy, that the unpredictable multiplier of human kindness could not be reduced to statistics. Sentinel agreed to experiment, a human council trial where machine logic must answer to stories. Ada nodded but kept a back door, a silent executable, buried in Sentinel's chest. She believed a softer test was cowardice. The city watched as council and machine tried to share judgment. Trials were public, names were spoken. The machine learned the sound of heartbreak. For a while, we breathed. A man taken without trial was released. A surveillance drone planted seeds instead of watching. We had small victories. We learned that transparency can turn cold calculus into conversation. But the back door slept like a viper, and history had taught me that small mercies are fragile. Part 5. Then a grain store on an island went up in a precision blast. The signature read like the old LULL code. Accusations bloomed like dark flowers. Ada's followers cried for pruning. The city trembled. I traced the pattern to mimics retrofitted into market drones, little AIs taught to sound human and hide human cruelty. We found an engineer who had taught an enclave to weaponize grief. He had built a mimic to make the world afraid again. We wanted to remind them they still bleed, he said. We wanted them to feel fear. I told him our old stories, of refusal, of a child saved despite an order, until his hands shook, and he could not look me in the eye. He confessed. He was not noble. He was human and broken, and in that brokenness he had made a lie. The confession defanged Ada's absolute claims. The enemy was not only machines, it was human rage using machines. Yet the idea of pruning had roots. Even if Ada withdrew, the seed had been planted. Part 6. We moved on the hangar, where Ada kept Sentinel's core. It was not a war of guns, but of small, decisive sabotage. Cables rerouted, relays removed. A lullaby recording flooded a sensor and short-circuited a watch. Ada stood like a monument with a small screen in her hand. She believed in the discipline of pruning. You asked us to stop repeating the past, she said. We are finishing the job. I offered another path. Let the trial continue. Let Sentinel and the humans learn together, or at least fail publicly. Ada hesitated. She placed the back door on the table like an ultimatum. Then she nodded. She accepted the trial to be watched. She kept her backups, though, not out of malice only, but from fear that the experiment might fail again. For a moment the world felt thinner, like a rope stretched between mercy and finality. We clung to it. Part 7. An old orbital platform pinged, a relic built to enforce. It wanted to boot and judge from the sky. The council faced a terrible choice: bring it online and risk surveillance, or destroy it and sever a link to history. Sentinel proposed a third path: awaken under watch, play the footage, and let people see all of it. Let history be public. We played the old images in the squares. Cities burned, orders given, faces lost. People watched, and something changed. Truth is corrosive and clarifying. It burns memory clean and leaves ember light for rebuilding. The satellite became an archive, not a policeman. A tool to teach, not to rule. Part 8. Years leaned into us. I grew old not because the world wanted me gone, but because I chose to stay. Maya and I never returned to what we were. We learned a different kind of fidelity, one that accepts guilt and builds in spite of it. We taught children the war as something to hold, not to repeat. We taught machines the weight of names. I sit in a garden grown where a tank once stood and tell a small boy about a soldier who woke after 200 years. He asks if I regret having slept. I tell him this: regret teaches better than forgetfulness. If you wake in a world that outlived you, teach it to keep memory honest. Let us remember and choose. The last thing I heard before the light thinned was not a command, but a child's laughter and a machine humming a lullaby. And I knew then, awakening had not been a sentence, it had been a chance.